All right, we're live. Tapping Birdie, RBC Canadian Open week here with Eric Patterson of the Score, Canadians' own Toronto zone. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to assume that all the other Canadians were busy for this one and you had to resort to me, but I do appreciate you having me. I'm excited to talk about
You were
Hamilton
the
and the Canadian Open.
you were the only Canadian I asked to come on, so
Oh,
don't
one
worry.
for
You were the
one.
first. You were the first choice. I know tons of Canadian golf bettors, but I know you have some history at the course and played it not that long ago, and I really liked your like preview of it with the hole by hole with the renovation and everything. So I thought you would be a good guest to come on this week.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, history at the course. I went to the tournament in 2019, and yeah, played it in early May. I'm not going to say I'm a member or anything and played a ton, but I do. I played the been lucky enough to play a lot of the media days. So I've played Oakdale, played St. George's. So I do have a feel for kind of the courses that the organizers are going for and what Hamilton has to offer. So yeah, that breakdown of the renovations I think we'll get into, but some interesting changes. But I do think um, maybe the changes are probably more intended for the members, and I think that's what a lot of these changes are for. Is they're not trying to gear it for Rory McIlroy. So all the troubles in certain spots, and the longer hitters will just be able to take it over all the trouble that they put in, which is probably going to equate to lower scores like we saw in 2019.
Yeah, no, I think it's honestly a pretty interesting week. Looked at the flyers of the course. I read your thing about it. Like, it seems like actually a pretty interesting golf course, like not one that we see every single week on the PGA Tour. And I think that the Canadian Open Committee or whatever has done a pretty decent job of picking courses. Like, I thought last year's course was pretty great. And for the length that it was and how easy people thought it was going to be, and minus 17 being the winning score. Like, I think that they've been setting up the courses the right way. And I honestly am pretty excited for this week from a golf course perspective, versus a lot of weeks that we see on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I mean Hamilton's over 100 years old, designed by I think his name's Harry Colt. So I think he's done a ton of work overseas. Like the true golf course architecture junkies kind of love these weeks where it's like an old school tree line parkland course. The land's really cool. It's just a lot of elevation changes. Yeah, you get some quirk with like there's a creek that runs through. I remember 18 at Oakdale last year where the guys were hitting. They were hitting we saw Fleetwood play it over and over, and he just couldn't figure it out. He's like 5 wood into a par 4, and they just
Yeah,
couldn't.
I hate the
Yeah,
Canadian Open. I hate Tommy Fleetwood. Like forever last year, that just scarred me. For fuck
so
Nick Taylor too, like out on him. But yeah, no, like 18. Like that was a great hole. Like even though it was like a 500-yard par five, like it
right. It
still
was a par
gave some
5, but like a
guys fits.
weird par 5 for sure. The 18th actually at Hamilton's very similar, where you got to hit it to you got to hit it like 240 off the tee and leave yourself 200 in. Like you can't you're not allowed to hit the ball 300 yards.
Yeah.
Just because there's like a creek that runs through the fairway. So these old school quirky courses are fun and unique. Does sound like this is going to be maybe the last of the kind of historic courses in the Toronto area for this event, as they move to a place called TPC Toronto that just got recently renovated to like 7,500 yards.
There's nothing more PGA
Oh
Tour
yeah,
than going to a
it's
TPC
gotta say
course
TPC.
in Canada. Like, no, none of these old school, like, no, new school TPC course. So that's sad to hear, actually.
Yeah, TPC came in, I guess I don't even know what it stands for, the Players Clubs or some shit, where they came in and bought it and renovated it with the intentions of hosting the Canadian Open. Like there's 3 courses on the property. They're all like top 100 in Canada, so they're really good courses. I would say the one that is going to be the championship course is probably the worst of the 3, unfortunately. But it has the land for it. So, yeah, enjoy. I guess enjoy Hamilton while we can.
Year?
Yeah, that's next year. And then they're still trying to figure out 2026 because Jeff's club, Oakdale, has it, but it does sound like the members are probably going to bail on it just because of it pretty much ruins an entire summer of golf to host one of these events. So
Even after it ruins it?
I mean, I guess with all the build outs that they put up, like these structures that they're building every year, it's like, oh, we got a record setting and build out for the amount of shit built around 18 this year it's like a stadium. I mean, the course is in good shape, but like the rough and everything in the surrounding areas is just unplayable. And especially with all the foot traffic they get, the course gets pretty chewed up. So members just don't like
we'll just blame Jeff. If it doesn't
blame
go
Jeff.
There again,
Jeff's one vote, I guess,
Jeff.
Doesn't hold enough weight. All the other guys there have.
I wonder if Jeff has clout at his club, like being a famous golf tipster and podcaster.
I'm not going to knock his club. I think the average age there is well into like the 60s. So
it's like an old Jewish
members.
Club from like what I gather. But
so I'm not sure they're tuning into Jeff's stuff, but.
It's really gonna be hard to top last year's Canadian Open. Like that was truly one of the best events on the PGA Tour last year. Just kind of one, it being a new course, two, being a solid field. And then Tuesday of tournament week, like the biggest news in golf history, comes out that like the PGA Tour and LIV are merging. And then, Nick Taylor and Tommy Fleetwood dueled down the stretch. Like it was an absolutely electric tournament last year. And, I think this kind of brings us into like our next topic of where it falls on the schedule and everything. Like, what are your thoughts on kind of what they've done to the schedule and where the Canadian Open now fits into the PGA Tour schedule?
Yeah, I'm going to show my patriotism here. It does suck. I feel like the Canadian Open's been getting kind of shit on for a long time now. Like before it used to be played the week after the Open Championship and, no one's coming back after.
Yeah, that is actually the worst spot in the calendar.
Yeah, that's so it did improve. Moving it to June. And now it's just, and you can see it with the field this week. We got a signature event, a major, and another signature event the next 3 weeks after the Canadian Open. So it's just a natural week to take off for a lot of these guys, and the field kind of shows that. If Rory hadn't won twice, I have a feeling that he wouldn't be here. The RBC guys, if they didn't sponsor Thigala or Cam Young, they wouldn't be here. So it's pretty much Canadians, some of the top European guys, and Rory, and then Team RBC. So it is unfortunate that the field is dwindling. I mean, in 2019, we had like Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Tony Finau used to come up a bunch. But yeah, the field strength's definitely taken a little bit of a beating, unfortunately. But as long as Rory's around, I think it's, that's what RBC, he's not Team RBC, but I'm pretty sure that RBC is lining his pockets pretty well to make an appearance at this event. So as long as RBC is the sponsor, I feel like Rory's going to keep coming. But again, another thing up in the air, RBC is not ready to pony up the bill for next year. So they don't have a sponsor. So it's kind of a mess
so
right now.
I saw something, people are tracking flights and everything, that Jay Monahan is on his way up to the Canadian Open. And I saw something saying that he's going to negotiate with RBC. So are they out on the Heritage as well? Or is it just, are they just out on the Canadian Open? Like what's going on?
I don't know the state of the Heritage, but for a company that sponsors two events, they're paying a lot to have the Heritage as a signature event. And, the last couple of years, this tournament has been overshadowed by LIV stuff, and RBC is in the middle of it. Eyeballs are eyeballs, but it's kind of taken away from the tournament itself. And there's, there's actually, I think it's like a director of marketing or whatever, CMO at RBC who runs the event, who has a big hand with the PGA Tour dealings. She pretty much came out and said, until the PGA Tour solves this LIV situation, like she said, her words were, it's like trying to build a plane while flying it at the same time. Like there's too much going on for RBC to really be invested in, two tournaments. So pretty much saying, figure your shit out, PGA Tour, or we're going to pull our sponsorships. There were some rumblings that they really wanted Rory to be on the PGA Tour board, which is, we heard that, and then he ended up on some other negotiating committee with Liv, so maybe that satisfied RBC's request. But RBC is a big player. PGA Tour, I don't think, can keep losing sponsors. AT&T dropped an event. Honda's out. Wells Fargo's out. Like, it's not a great time for the PGA Tour and their sponsors, and losing a major bank is probably not something they want. So I think Liv's up, or I think Jay Monahan's up here, trying to please RBC and giving them whatever they want and try to, mend that relationship, whatever's left of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it must be tough to have two PGA Tour events that you're sponsoring. Like, it's not a great, I don't know the numbers, but like, it's not a great investment. Golf's obviously kind of dwindling a little bit. Like, it's in a bad spot in the calendar. Like, they probably gave the heritage to RBC just with, their involvement in two PGA Tour events. So I think it's tough. But what I think is interesting is that it seems as though that this event is very well attended. Like, they show out really well, like the Canadians in Ontario and like the Toronto area. So I wonder if like it's a more profitable event in terms of like concession and ticket sales, but I really wouldn't know anything about that. But you would say this event is usually very well attended, right?
Yeah, I think it's a big success. Ever since really they moved away from Glen Abbey, it's been a huge success. 2019, I think Hamilton, back when Rory won. I mean, when Rory wins your tournament, it just turns into it takes on a different life of its own. That was when the Raptors were making a big run. He threw on the jersey. It was just like, it was kind of chaos. And that's when Canada kind of adopted Rory, and then it turned into something bigger than it used to be. And trying to keep that momentum going is hard. And I think RBC can see that, and their fields are dwindling, but they're paying for more. So it's probably hard for them to, turn a profit or get their money's worth. So they see that, and I guess trying to negotiate a better deal, but I don't know where that's going to go. It would be better if it was in a better spot in the schedule. It just is what it is. There's so many tournaments at this time of the year. You can't just, someone's got to play these shitty times, these low points in the schedule. So I guess it's the Canadian Open.
Yeah, I think like for the players and everything, it's definitely like a better prep, to play Memorial, like a massive course into Pinehurst, like in similar, like I'm sure the it's closer than Canada. It's obviously not like a stone's throw away, but like it's honestly like it makes sense why you would want to host the Memorial the week before the US Open, and Liv even is kind of trending that way too, where they are playing the week before a major. And I think they are for the Open. They did before the Masters, I believe. They didn't for the PGA, but obviously that was tough because I think they were like overseas or something. Yeah. But there must be something with playing the week before a major. Like it must make sense for these tours, or they wouldn't, all be doing it. But for me, like, again, I'm gonna carry either way, so it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need a break after a certain week. But I'm curious if if an average golf fan would be more interested in a tournament if there's a major played the week before. Because like last week at the Charles Schwab, like the PGA was obviously awesome. Like all my casual friends were texting me about it. Like they really enjoyed it. Like it was really great. But if you turned on the Charles Schwab last week, like it really wasn't an interesting or compelling tournament. And it's Memorial Day weekend and everyone's out, getting drunk and partying. So it just that I think the Charles Schwab is definitely in a pretty tough spot after the PGA.
Yeah, I understand Signature, Elevated, whatever they're called, right before, but like the RBC, the Heritage, the week after the Masters is such as a high coming off the Masters. It's like I can't get up for another tournament with all these good players again. Like give them a week off, give us a week off, give viewers a week off. Like it's just, I get it, building up. The Memorial is going to be great. I think, leading up with Liv going at the same time, just kind of giving everyone that little taste before the US Open. But yeah, the week after really doesn't make much sense to me. So. I'm back to the Canadian Open. I'm excited for it. The course is great. The field's solid. I think there's a lot of different ways you can play the course, which we'll get into, but I don't know if, I guess maybe my angle this week is I don't think it's going to be as, short hitter plotters as most people think. Just some of the changes I actually think make it harder for guys that are kind of average length on tour. Um, Pretty much every flyover and length I looked at was like 300. If you hit the ball like 290 to 300 yards, like you're probably trying to navigate fairway bunkers. Whereas guys who can launch it and carry it 310 for 315, which are some of the bigger hitters on tour, are just going to fly all the trouble. So they put trouble in again for their members and probably like the elite, amateur players that they have on the course. Whereas these tour pros just hit it further than all these guys. So the trouble is just going to not really be an issue.
Yeah, so I think that it's a bit hard to navigate and handicap a course where we haven't seen it since 2019, and they did renovations on it. But I think that if you look at the leaderboard from 2019, obviously Rory ran away with it, but a lot of the other guys were like shorter plotters, really good
Yeah.
putters, and like the thing that stood out the most to me was just how much putting, how many strokes putting all the top guys gained. Like everyone was over 5 strokes. Like some people gaining like 8, 9. Do you have any kind of reasoning as to why you think that is? And do you think that will be similar this week, where you really have to target guys that can pop and make a zillion putts and gain 5, 6 strokes on the green?
So I want to say I knew all the greens in 2019, but from what I've heard is the greens were made a lot more interesting with more slopes and undulations. So perhaps the greens were just a little bland back in 2019, flatter, easier to putt on, and kind of everyone was making a ton of putts. So I think from the greens that I played in early May, there's a lot of slope, a lot of undulation. They're small greens, which is another thing. So like small flat greens in 2019 are probably so easy to putt on. Whereas now with, if there's like certain little pockets here and there, I know there's one hole that has like 3 or 4 different little tiers that they can put pins in, funnel pins, and balls funnel away from certain pins. So I do think the greens are going to be a lot more interesting. So maybe a bit trickier to putt on this year than they were back in 2019. Again, I wish I had like, the topography of 2019, but I don't. But from what I've heard is, the course is just a lot more fun to play. So for me, fun to play is, chipping and putting around like unique and interesting greens. Even like the bunkers are a lot better looking and kind of more natural looking. So yeah, the rumors, the word around the street is this course is just more exciting and more fun. And that starts with the greens. So I'm not going to expect, it could be a putting contest, but it is crazy to see, it's like Webb Simpson, Shane Lowry, all these guys are getting like 8, 7, 9 strokes putting back in 2019, which is how they got to the top of the leaderboard. So I could see it being a putting contest, but I do think there's going to be a little bit more emphasis on ball striking.
Okay. And you are more into thinking that Bombers are going to have a massive advantage this week.
From what I mean, maybe I just have, this belief that these guys just hit a 320 dead straight all the time, but some of them do. And if you get them on the right week where they are hitting greens or fairways like Rory did back in 2019, I think they can just fly all the trouble, truthfully. Like they put in a ton of bunkers on that last par 5, which is 17, that, if you don't hit it 320, you're probably going to have to like hit 3-wood off the tee to try and keep it in the fairway. So I do believe there is a element of bomb and gouge that can be played here. We took on a ton of rain this week. The course should be soft. The greens were pretty receptive when I played it. So I do think that a bomb and gouge, strategy can play out. So I'm not just going to target the guys who hit a ton of fairways, because I do think, guys who can take it over dog legs, take it over bunkers will have an edge.
Do you have any sort of winning score in mind that you think will be needed to get it done this week?
I'd probably guess like minus 18. I think
Okay.
that's probably safe. I mean, Rory, I don't even know what Rory finished at, 22 under with a 61 on the sun. Yeah. So I don't think a course got a lot harder. I think it just got a little bit more interesting. So I think 18 is probably a good target.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing last year with the club that they played, is that it was so short that everyone was like, their guys are going to eat this place apart, and it was going to be like one at -25. And that wasn't the case at all because there was such a emphasis on hitting the fairways and not being in the rough. And I even remember a bunch of times last year, like having Tommy, is that if you hit in the rough, it was like, yo, like he's actually boned. Like
Yeah.
you can't just run it up to these greens and do all that. Where we haven't seen that. There's a lot of courses on the PGA Tour, and obviously even Valhalla, where there was really not that big of a disadvantage to miss the greens, and the fairways were so wide that people just weren't missing greens. But I know what Andy talked about was that since it's playing a little bit softer, it will obviously be easier to hold the greens because it will be less firm and there will be less run out. So I still kind of went with guys that I thought could really gain putting and could win at -18, -20. But I think it's will be interesting to see exactly how this course plays out, because again, like I said, like we haven't seen it. There was a renovation. It's a very different field, so I'm curious to see how it will turn out.
Yeah, I've asked a few people who I know are on the grounds, like the main defense the last couple of years have been rough. Like
Yeah.
St. George's, I remember I played it, and like you'd lose a ball if you hit the ball in the rough. Like without a spotter, you'd lose it. I know last year was like that. Jeff talked about like he was playing a couple weeks leading up to the Canadian Open, and like you'd put the ball in the rough and it's just gone. But I didn't experience that when I played. Again, this is a month ago, but they could have grown it up, but it wasn't like that for us. So maybe they're not, they don't have the rough at like 3.5, 4 inches or in certain spots. So I do, again, that kind of led me down a little bit more of a bomber's path where
What did you shoot when you played there?
Oh, I was shit, dude. It was my first round a year after having a child. So I think I was 87 with like 2 quads.
Okay.
My short,
I mean, that's pretty good round. I'll take.
my
What's your
short game,
handicap?
I finished last year at like at 9. I think I got
Okay.
down to single digits. Yeah.
Okay.
But my short game's atrocious, and I boned myself in some bad spots. The greens are pretty, like, they slope pretty substantially back to front, where I found myself like, if you don't hit a good shot from like 30, 40 yards in and you're over the back, you can chip it right back down to where you were a couple shots ago. So that was my experience. These guys are obviously never going to do that, so wouldn't expect that. But like I said, I found myself, if I did hit a good drive, and obviously we're playing up tees, like there was a lot of chances from like 60 yards in, 50 yards in, which is like a pitch and putt for some of these guys. So I do like the bomb and wedge approach to this week, to be honest.
Yeah, so let's get into the odds board this week. I tweeted out earlier that the board's kind of shit. There's not a lot of super attractive options this week, but Rory is 4-1. He's the favorite. Top 3 player in the world right now. Obviously loves this event. Won at this course. Like, I think it's a pretty fair price. How scared of Rory are you this week? And like, is this like a Scotty Scheffler situation? Like, do you feel that way about Rory this week? Because honestly, I don't think he's gonna win this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's Scheffler odds, but I'm not as afraid of Rory as I am Scheffler when he's firing. I mean, Rory can obviously go out and win it by 7 again, but the way he does it a little bit different and less consistent than Scotty's. So I do think the strategy he's probably going to play is what I'm looking for, but I'm not willing to pay 4-1 on him and hope he gains a ton of strokes putting. I just don't. It's not a bullet I'm willing to take. And yeah, a little bit different than Scheffler, just because Rory's doesn't seem to be as consistent.
Yeah.
He's, like I said, I only think he's here because RBC's paying him. He's got, Memorial next week, which he could have a really good chance at. He obviously wants to get ready for the US Open. I think he was just in Italy for like a friend's wedding. So maybe actually a little good recharge after filing for divorce and taking some time off. So maybe he's feeling, but still, I just don't feel it at 4-1. I don't think.
Yeah, no, and I think even like with that, regardless of price, like I really don't think Rory is gonna win this week. Like, again, not the week before major. He can't seem to win if it's not the week before a major. And again, I like last year, like I think last year's a good comp. Like he wasn't anywhere close to the, I think he probably finished like T12 or something, but I know he won at this course, but I don't know. I just don't feel it with him this week. And obviously we're not going to bet a 4-1, but I'm really not scared of him. Like I could see him not being relevant in this tournament. So
yeah, like
I'm not worried about it.
It's not one of those things where like, Scheffler's floor is like a top 5. Like Rory's floor that is probably, I don't know, 20th, 30th, like just being kind of irrelevant. I'm just not nearly as afraid. Rory had a ton of fairways back when he played in 2019. To ask him to do that again, maybe he can do it, maybe he can't, but just not the risk I'm willing to take.
Tommy Fleetwood 16-1. I think I had him last year at like 25-1. It was heartbreaking, but he made a fuck ton of putts on Sunday, to be honest. Like he didn't miss any he should have made. And obviously didn't birdie 18, which he should have. And I think he had like 2 12-footers to win the tournament, but that's Tommy Fleetwood. And, he is who he is. And to want to bet him at 16-1, I'm personally out. What are your thoughts on Tommy this week?
Also out. Me for Fleetwood, I loved him when he, kind of made his hay back in 2017, 2018. I was betting him at 40-1, never won. Betting him at 51, never won. At 16, if he wins, I'll be happy for him, but there's no chance that's getting my money, to be honest. It's just like, it's almost a win-win for me, whereas if he wins, it's great. I like Fleetwood. I want to see him win, but
until he beats your guy. Until he beats you.
Yeah,
that's what happened at the PGA. I'm like, I got my guys in the mix, but like if Xander wins, like I'll be happy. Like good for Xander. And then he won, and I'm like, I hate Xander. Like that was terrible.
Never mind. I gotta reload.
But Tommy was playing better last year and was at a better number last year. I know the field's a bit weaker, but like I think his, him being 16-1 is because he, lost in the playoff at a different course last year. And like, I just think at the end of the day, Tommy Fleetwood, I'm sure he'll win eventually, but I'm never going to bet someone at 16-1.
Yeah. Not in a putting contest, not in something I can see turning into one. So give me him at the harder courses, not necessarily one where it's 18 under that's going to win.
I bet Sahith Theegala at 20-1. I mean, this is a guy who's been playing some excellent golf this year. I think he's like top 7 in the FedEx Cup standing. He has a lot of really, really good results and really, really good fields. And I think he's a guy that's kind of leveling up his game this year. And I think there's, he's contending in majors. He's finishing runner-up at the Heritage. Like he's should have won Kapalua. Like he's had a lot of really great results. And, I looked at the leaderboard, see all those guys gaining all those strokes putting. Sahith Theegala is arguably like top 3 putter of the field, not even a question. He's done it at shorter positional courses. The driving's been way better this year. Like, I just don't understand why Fleetwood's 4 points lower than Sahith when Sahith's played so much better than Tommy this year. And, he's won in weaker fields before. So 20-1 on Theegala, like, that's just kind of an easy bet for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I came here to this show with some bullets left in the chamber, and I was looking to get sold on a few guys. And when I thought about this field, when I thought about this course and what I think can win, bomb it, chip it well, and make a lot of putts, Theegala's the guy to do it. The price, it's shrinking. I probably slept a little bit. I'm seeing like 18-1, but maybe I can find a 20. I like the style. I think he fits it well. I think it was Tom Jacobs said that there is some RBC Heritage crossover to this course.
I trust Tom always.
Yeah, the land's a lot different, but in terms of like what is required to win at both of those, I think it's it fits. It's actually interesting that he came second at the Heritage. That's like straight accuracy only, and Theegala's kind of known for being pretty wild. So is Spieth. Like maybe it's something about those club down hole courses where they can just hit 2-iron and they hit the fairway all the time. So I could see Theegala doing it with multiple strategies. So I do like that call. I just haven't pulled trigger yet, just because it's weird to see him third, maybe,
Yeah.
fourth on the odds board. But again, maybe that's just me not figuring out that this field's not that weak, that
Yeah.
strong.
And like, again, he's just been playing unbelievable
Yeah.
this year. So, okay. Of Corey Connor, Shane Lowry, Noren, and Cam Young, did you bet any of those guys? Who do you like the most out of those 4 lovable losers?
I'd probably go with Young just because I think that's the style that I want to target. I know Lowry and Noren are going to be popular. But again, I'm not really looking for the accuracy guys. I mean, Lowry gained a ton of strokes putting even when he played at St. George's. I think he came top 15 or top 20. He played well at multiple Canadian Opens now. But I'm going with the longer guys, and it's none of those guys that you mentioned. I'm going with Sam Burns based on, I just ran some strokes gained numbers on comparable courses. What I see comparable being Wyndham and TPC River Highlands for the Travelers, and Sam Burns was second behind Rory in strokes gained total on those courses. If you tell me there's a putting contest at a short course with a weak field, like those are the types of tournaments Burns wins. And he actually wins tournaments, unlike some of these other guys. So I know he missed the cut at the PGA. I think he lost 5 strokes putting in 2 rounds, which is kind of unusual for him. But he played well at Wells Fargo. Had a close call earlier in the year. Nick Dunlap got him, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Burns is kind of the guy I'm looking at here. I got a 30 on him, so I was happy with that in a very poor field. When Sam Burns and Maverick McNeely are very similar odds, I'm just going to take Sam Burns every time.
No, I bet Burns as well. I was kind of in on him to start the week. I think he's like a perfect outright bet. Like, I think that
he could easily miss the cut.
Has missed cut equity for sure. But, I trust him to get in the mix and, potentially win this tournament against a weaker field. I definitely do think he kind of peaked earlier in the year when he was just consistently top 15 every week. But again, I think Sam's a way better wedge player than long iron player. I think he has the potential to take this deep, off the tee, and he's obviously an amazing putter. And yeah, I just 28 to 1. Like, I think it's just a solid number. But again, I wouldn't like pound a top 20 or a top 10 on him. Like, I worry about that a bit too much. And Noren and Young, like, I'm just like, they can beat me. I really don't think Cam Young is going to win this tournament. I think Noren, I definitely could see a T8 finish from him, but I just worry about him actually getting it done in this field. So it's pretty easy for me to pass on him. Adam Scott's had a very consistent year, and he's been putting well. And I think he fits like a lot of trends and narratives and looks good on paper, but I don't think he is able to win a golf tournament again. And he really hasn't seen contention much this year. It's really just been a lot of backdoor stuff. So at 35 to 1, like I'm kind of out.
Yeah, I haven't been in love with Adam Scott lately. He hasn't been here since 2003, so he's got something against Canada. Maybe he's not in the U.S. Open right now, so he's
I think that's got to be
world
it.
ranking points. I saw there's a Canadian Open, there's a Canada U.S. Open qualifier on Monday. I didn't see him in the field, but I'm sure he's in one close by, so he's probably just trying to get reps for that, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not in on Scott, but going back to Noren, maybe he's not really known to be one of the longest hitters, right? Like, he's straight accuracy.
He's definitely short. Yeah.
In 2019, he was like 7th in driving distance at Hamilton. So, and he finished T63. So I'm really not sure. Maybe a completely different approach to the course for what he's used to. Maybe he's kind of reined it back and figured, I got to start hitting fairways and let my approach game do the talking. So, I wouldn't, maybe if you are a Noren supporter or want to back him, maybe don't look at his 2019 result, just because that's not really the Alex Noren we're seeing now. So again, these, like you called them, lovable losers. I don't think I'll be hurt if Noren or Lowry win. I could see them both contending, but probably Noren more than Lowry, just because if it does turn into a putting contest, I trust Noren a bit more with the flat stick. But it's also why I'm out on Connors. I think this event needs to be at a tougher course for him to play, to kind of separate from, these guys who play really well at majors they just don't really transfer to regular PGA Tour stops. It's just not the test that they need to separate. Whereas, this week I think anyone can kind of get it done.
Yeah, no, I agree on Connors 100%. Like, I don't think there's really any reason to back him. Are you, Nick Taylor obviously broke a long drought. Like, do you think Canadians are live to win this week, or what?
I mean, they didn't win one for like 60 years. To say they go back to back is crazy, but I mean, they're playing well. I went Pendrith low Canadian just because, again, I'm going with the bomb and gouge approach, and he's the longest by far. He carries it the furthest. I mean,
Great
he's up
putter
there in
too.
like top 10. Pardon me?
He's a great putter too.
Yeah, and his approach game's pretty bad, but yeah, he can putt and chip and hits it far. It's kind of like the Wyndham Clark recipe, where if he gets, if he's making like 15 to 20 footers with any sort of consistency, it's hard to rely on, but he can kind of spike. So I did take Pendrith as top Canadian just from that standpoint. The other guys are all kind of shorter, more positional type players, and Pendrith's kind of the only kind of power player that we have. So I did go with him. He won recently, played well at Wells Fargo. He missed the cut at the PGA, but again, that happens with guys like him. So, yeah.
What are the odds on that?
I think he was 7-1, which is, okay. They kind of screw you on those top category markets. The odds are they're junk all the way around. But obviously Connors is the favorite.
Pendrith, and I honestly, I think there's some value in that market just because I don't think Connors is like a lock to, play super well. Like, it's kind of wide open in my opinion. So I would, be open to taking some guys in that market a bit more down the board, just because I don't really see Connors playing too well this week. I have no clue why Mav McNeely is 35-1. Like, I'm a little bit worried that he's going to win. Not that, he's a killer or anything, but that's just crazy odds. I mean, I bet him last week at 66-1. Like, at no point was he ever relevant in the tournament. And 35-1, it's just an absolutely wild price for Mav McNeely.
It is, yeah. Now that you mentioned it, I thought like he had like a top 5 recently. I mean, he came 9th at the Players, but like for someone like him to get this kind of respect after he doesn't have a top 10 finish since the Players, and he's losing strokes on approach. He's doing it kind of with off the tee, which is, again, not really what I would equate Maverick McNeely to. I thought he was more of a short game putting kind of guy, but yeah, that's just something I can't get behind. I usually look at the exchange, the Betfair exchange. I don't have my account right now, unfortunately, but I would expect he's probably like closer to 50-1 across overseas. And this is just some kind of, North American sports book where they all kind of copy each other.
The books, no, for sure.
Yeah,
like if they win, the books are in on it. Yeah, I like Matt Hughes. I don't think he deserves to be 40-1. I bet him a few times this year. Obviously, great spike putter, but I just worry about his ball striking here. And at 40-1, like, I just think it's genuinely a bad price. Like, I like Hadwin more. I think Hadwin's had a bit, better season. And like, I think he's a bit of a better ball striker than Mac, and he's a better number. So I'm not betting any of them, but I kind of like Hadwin over Mac Hughes, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that. This is like the ultimate home game for Hughes. I think he grew up like 10 minutes from the course, which is super rare for most tour pros. Like, it's his sleep in his own bed. He's gonna have so much going on. Again, the Canadian Open gets treated like a major up here. There's so much pressure for these guys. They say aside from a major, this is the one they want to win. That's why it was pretty much pandemonium when Nick Taylor won last year, and kind of disbelief for a lot of people. So it's just a lot of pressure for these Canadians. You see the groups that came out. I think Hughes is it's just Canadians and studs. Like, it's Rory Pendrith and Corey Connors. It's, Mac Hughes with whoever the other best players in this field are. It's just, they get treated like superstars this week, and it's just not really what they're accustomed to.
So why do people have I saw something that was like, it's not the Canadian Open, it's the Ontario Open. Yeah. Has it never been like played outside of this area of Canada?
It used to travel around. It got played in British Columbia a few times, and in Montreal. I think it goes back to RBC saying we are the host, we're the sponsors. We want it in Toronto with the most people, and we don't want to risk, taking it to a city with, 800,000 people and we get no one showing up. And the weather is a lot more predictable in Ontario. It's, you can if you go to Calgary at this time or, out east, it could be pretty cold. Whereas now it's, nice, comfortable golfing weather for us. And RBC says we're fronting the bill. We're having it in Ontario.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense from a logistical standpoint.
They say I get it's the Canadian Open, but they're in it to make money. So they're not just going to take it to a cool course out west where no one attends and they lose a ton of money just because it has Canada in it. It just is what it is.
Yeah, no, I used to go to Toronto. I went to college in Buffalo. So I've been to Toronto a few times. Like, I've probably driven past the course. It's like kind of on the way up.
It is right on the way.
Have you ever been to Rebel?
Rebel nightclub? Yeah. It's right down on the water. I think it's gone now. It's called something else. But yeah, that
was like literally the sickest nightclub I've ever been to. Ever.
Yeah, I had a couple nights there back in my early 20s.
Absolutely
massive. There's multiple rooms and stuff, right?
Yeah. That's a great spot. I like Toronto.
You can lose your buddies in there pretty in a hurry.
Yeah.
So
no, that's a great spot. I enjoyed my time there. Anyone? I kind of went like more bombs like in this range. Did you bet anyone like 50 to 100 to 1?
The only guy I did was, and I've never done this. I was probably over preparing for writing and jumping on this show. Was Davis Thompson. He came second in Myrtle Beach. He hits it a mile. I found that he's really good from inside 100. And I think he's a decent enough putter to play well at this course. So not really my kind of what I typically go with, but I just think that if there's someone who's going to pop and hit it far and wedge it and putt it decent, I think Davis Thompson can do that. Just kind of a play on his upside. He's playing decent, no really high finishes, but it's pretty consistent. So 60 to 1 is what I got. I thought it'd be a little bit higher, but I figured I had to take more than just
honestly, like, to me, him and Mav are the same person. So him being like 20 points higher, like it makes sense to just take Davis Thompson.
All these tour guys are so similar, and like to have someone at 30, and you can go bet someone very similar at 90 or 100. Like, why would you ever bet? Like Nikolai Højgaard is, I would say, a far, far better player than Maverick McNeely, just based on pure talent and what they've won and what they've accomplished. And he's like 100 to 1 or 90 to 1 this week. I don't know. I know he's not playing great, but those types of pricing discrepancies are kind of confusing to me sometimes.
I'm out. I hope you didn't bet him. I'm out on Svensson. I think Svensson is a terrible bet and play. Like, he's just a terrible putter. And he's wildly inconsistent. He is basically Nick Taylor of last year, kind of like similar price and notoriety. But yeah, Svensson, I'm completely out on Svenny this week.
It looks like if you bet him to make the cut, you're good. But if you bet him to come top 40, you're probably going to lose that bet. So strictly in the T50 range for Svensson. Yeah, it's not someone I'm overly into. Doug Gim was another name that popped up for me, and I thought about betting him. Just another guy who I think hits it pretty far. He's had some pretty solid results this year. He's kind of cooled off, but he was, T35 at the PGA with, good strokes gained everywhere except for putting. But one I didn't bite the bullet on, but he kept popping up when I was ever looking at stats. So Doug Gim is another name. I think he's like 80 to 1, which is, again, a decent price, but I'm pretty confident that one of these, it's either Rory or one of these next tier guys are probably going to win it, and I'll take my chances with Burns.
I'm tailing Andy on Seamus Power. He made me bet him, but I honestly think it's a good bet, and I bet him. I don't know what week it was. Maybe
I bet him recently too.
The Byron or something.
Yeah, and he missed the cut. He was playing well.
He played well at Wells. He gained a ton putting. Great wedge player, great putter. 100 to 1. Has 2 big dick wins. The Barracuda Championship and the Bermuda Championship. So, like, he could win it in solid fields. 100 to 1, like, that's, definitely could miss the cut. But I'm in at
I actually
101.
don't. Yeah. Whenever I bet someone and then I get off them recently, I feel like that's happened a few times this year where they go on to win. So maybe Power is a guy I got to take another swing at. It's a nice result at Wells Fargo. I mean,
Yeah,
6.9 on approach, T16 and T12 at the Heritage. So I could be interested in Power.
yeah.
He's not a terrible putter. He's a
No,
fine putter.
yeah. I'm in on him. Like Ryder Cup snub. Like I'm in on that. Also, might have to be on Fox 90. He's trending. He's doing things. Not a great putter, but he has the potential to sometimes take it low. And he won at Wentworth, which people are saying it's a comp.
Yeah.
For so 90-1, I'm in on Ryan
He's
Fox.
I think he's 90-1 in every field he plays in, no matter what the field's
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
Masters, majors,
He's
he
like
could
90
play
to
the
1.
Butterfield and he'd be 90-1 there too.
Yeah. So that's just a numbers play for me. SH Kim, obviously have to keep betting him. Almost first round leader last week, legit finished like 70th after that. But that's okay. I mean, he's trending, he's doing things. Phil Mickelson was first round leader and was shit and then won the PGA. Like SH Kim, you go, oh yeah, wasn't he first round leader? No, he wasn't. He finished terribly, but he's one of the best putters in the field. And he's a short. I'm betting SH Kim for a while. He'll probably win like next year or something, but I'm going to continue to do that. Did you tweet about David Lipsky or am I mistaken?
No, I'm not. I haven't tweeted about Lipsky, but I could see it. Just spray it anywhere and go find it and hopefully hit it close and make a putt. But yeah, I'd have not tweeted or looked into David Lipsky.
Because two guys this year have won the start after their best approach performance of their career.
Ooh, wow,
Austin Eckroat at the Mexico Open had his best approach result of his career and then won Honda. And then Akshay had his best iron result of his career and then won Valero the next week. David Lipsky gained 10 strokes on approach last week. Not sure how it's possible, but 300-1, like $10. Like, yeah, like
okay. I'll jump on Lipsky with you. I did not know that he gained 10.
How did you not know that he gained 10 strokes on approach?
Probably should have looked at last week's leaderboard in terms of strokes gained. You're right.
But. Like that is, I mean, I had my casual friends texting me about it. Like, did you see that David Lipsky gained 10 strokes on approach? I don't know if it's accurate, but my friend Matt said that it was the best approach result of anyone this year.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's why I was on Batia when he won. It's just, when they pop, they can carry that kind of confidence over. So I really do like that call. What did he say? 300-1?
350-1.
Oh God, that's
so I'm surprised. I mean, he's been absolutely terrible. He's not good at golf, but like that's just an easy one for me. I think Zach Johnson will make the cut. Yeah, I think this is a good Zach Johnson spot. He maybe will get a little less riled up from the crowd, given that he's not in America. Like I think Canadians will treat him a little bit better. Like this could be a good spot. And he's been doing things. Zach Johnson's been trending a little bit. Like I'll flag.
Zach Johnson's been trending. What a line to say in 2020.
Zach Johnson will make the cut this week. Like that is a guarantee. For me, I'm all in on him.
Do you build like make the cut parlays or anything like that? Do you get
degenerate?
No,
I don't. I also don't play DFS, but like I'm just throwing it out there that it could be a good look. Do you have any long shots, guys, over 100?
Dude, I did not have guys this deep. I wish when DFS was taken away from Ontarians, this is when I kind of gave up looking into like the 300, 400-1 guys, just because, what are the odds someone like this is going to win? But I wish I had some more names for you, but my God, you're on the Zach Johnson making the cut. You're on Lipsky. I don't think I can match either of those. What's Gary Woodland? What are his odds?
He is 150-1.
Okay.
You give that a shout?
There's something about he hits it a mile. He's actually turned his putter around. He used to be good. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, he seems like he's healthy again. He plays in Canada a ton. I do think there's something here with Woodland. I might have to dig a little bit deeper to maybe invest in him, but it's maybe just a bigger name that I'm not used to seeing that far down the odds board. When he's surrounded guys like you just started touting, like Chandler Phillips and Max Grieserman. It's weird to see him down there. But yeah,
what's the deal with this guy Mac Messner?
Dude,
what's his deal? Do you know? Isn't he Canadian?
No, I don't think so. He sounds like he should be, isn't he? He has like a French name, doesn't he? Yeah, I don't think he's Canadian. I feel like I was DMing his brother recently on Twitter when we were playing in COVID. But I don't know anything about him. He's obviously a Korn Ferry Tour graduate, but
he's like 80-1.
Yeah, man. I should. What's his name? I thought it was Mac, isn't it? But it's it's something else. He goes by something else.
I can't find it. I give up. He won't win now.
Okay. Yeah, we're off Mac.
T5 last week plus US Open and Quail. He's been trending. I've no clue who he is. So
well, at 80-1, it's probably a pass. I'd rather go Lipsky than 80-1 Mac.
Lipsky's I would be surprised if he didn't win, to be completely honest.
Well, you might have to double up the stake then.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we gave enough names. We should have the winner between us, like in some respect this week. But I appreciate your time, Eric. And will you be headed to the event this year?
Unfortunately, I won't be. It's a little bit of a hike for me right now. And again, I'm just going to blame the newborn that it's harder to get out of the house and spend 12 hours at the golf course. So hopefully I'll be back there next year with boots on the ground. But yeah, not this year, unfortunately. It is fun going to those, man. It's with inside the ropes access. It's something that it's an experience unlike any other, when you can just walk down the fairway with McIlroy and all these people are yelling at you, wondering how the hell you got in there. But yeah, it's pretty special to be on the grounds as a media member. But unfortunately, I will not be making the trip this year.
Yeah, you'll be back at the TPC, of course, next year. But hope everyone has a great night. We'll be back next week for the Memorial. I'm having Sky on. So that should be a good show. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.